Can you tell me your views on cremation and what does the Bible say about it?
Well, first of all, let's deal with what the Bible says about cremation, which is absolutely nothing. Cremation exists in the Bible, but not as a form of teaching whether it should be done or practiced or avoided. We do know that I think it's in 1 Samuel, the 24th chapter maybe, where Saul and his son's body were taken and burned. But of course, that is not teaching what should be done. We know that Abraham received a vision and a word from God to offer his son as a burnt offering, as a sacrifice unto the Lord, but we know that didn't happen. So in references like this in the Bible, clearly there is a notion that cremation happened, but it's not taught as a practice. And neither is it discouraged as a practice. The Bible is both implicitly and explicitly quiet on whether this should be done. Now, my personal belief about cremation, based upon my understanding of the Bible, is this. God is all-powerful, He's sovereign, and He can do all things. And so, whether one is cremated or embalmed, we would have to come to the same conclusion. Either God can raise it up or He can't. Bible, again, going back to the Bible, it doesn't express that He tells us not to do something. One may say the Bible speaks about destroying this body. There's a price to pay on that. Well, how many of us have already destroyed our body in the sense of what we've put in it, how we've used our body, how we abused our body? That's destroying it as well, and we can't overlook the fact that we've lived lives, and based upon the things that we have done, we're sick, we're suffering, and many of us die by those sicknesses and suffering. So I would ask this question for someone who have a problem with cremation. Do you believe that God can raise up an embalmed body, a body that is literally preserved with a chemical? The skin of the body is no longer good, whether the person have organs or not. Everything that is required for life has been altered with this body. And that person is basically an earth trophy. Unchanged. They do not go back to ashes and dust. They just sit there for many, many years, and yet you believe that God is going to raise that particular body up. Well, if you believe that can happen, then I would ask this question. What do you think about all of the people who died at sea, eaten by fish, that were eaten by other fish, and those fish were eaten by people? If God can go back and get them, literally grab every particle of that person who died at sea. And then the third, what about the people who burned up in fires, burnt to ashes? If we believe that God can go back and get people and raise them up, then we have to understand that no cremation, no embalming, no natural death and decay and decomposition will stop God from getting us. Ultimately, we have to also understand that we will be raised with incorruptible bodies. Even though those bodies may look like we look now, they will absolutely be different, because this body belongs to this earth and it's going nowhere. When Jesus was raised from the dead, yes, he looked the same. He said, touch me, handle me, for a spirit does not have flesh and bone as you see me have. But at the same time, that same body appeared, disappeared, appeared behind locked doors. That's not the kind of body he had that died on the cross. It was different. And so we have to understand that we are going to be raised with a different body, and stop putting so much emphasis on this one and what to do with it when we die. Most of those expressions come from a living person's thought. We don't want certain things to take place with our body because we're looking at it from a living person's standpoint. Finally, like people say, when I die, I want this song sang at my funeral. I want to be dressed in this, and I want this person to speak, and I want that person to speak, and I want these things to happen at my funeral. Well, newsflash, you're not going to know if it's done or not. You're not going to be there. So you won't know if your children put the dress you want on, or the suit that you wanted on, or the preacher who you want to preach your eulogy may not be available, and the very person that you don't want to preach your funeral may be the one to do it. These concerns, or those concerns, are living people's thoughts that have nothing to do with the reality of what happens after you die. So in a nutshell, if God can get an embalmed body, if God can get ashes, if God can get that which seemingly no longer exists and raise that person up, he can pull a person from ashes. That's my thought.
Okay.